On this episode 111, I'm going to talk about feedback. Well, we're going to cover some feedback. I'm going to talk about croissants and swingers. Yeah, the last one. Yeah, anyway, so let's get into it. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode. Hold on, let me just do this. There we go. Another episode of the Luke Who's Talking podcast with me, Luke. How you going? How you going out there? How you going out there? Now, I was listening to an episode of, well, we'll get into this late. Wait. I was listening to an episode of a podcast, Better Podcasting, yesterday, and SP said that he has listened to this show. So if you're out there listening now, SP, I just want to say hi. How you doing over there? Mr. Rocket Scientist, you. Anyway, everybody, let me get into the feedback. So, of course, last episode I talked about various things, right? One of them about how bad this season of summer of cricket, at least Test cricket, has been. And also, what would you do if you won Lotto? Now, I have received some feedback from a disgruntled listener, so I'm going to cover the points that they pointed out. Now, I should have gone back. Now, I think I did explain what a draw is in Test cricket, but I will explain it again. I thought I might have, because, look, there's three results in Test cricket. There's, of course, we'll say three results. A team can achieve three results. There's a win, there's a loss, match drawn, right? Now, in the context of a match-drawn situation, there is a couple of ways a draw can occur. So, for example, if there is rain and players lost due to rain, that can result in a draw. Was that just a no result? No, that can result in a drawn game. So let's just say the first 3 days of the match are fine, but then it rains on the last two, it's a draw. Okay. Also, another way a draw can be achieved is if the batting team I'll say the bowling team. So if the bowling team in the fourth innings fails to take all 10 wickets of that of the batting side. So let's say, for example, there's a day left and the batting team need to get 500 runs. Most likely they're not going to be able to achieve that. So the bowling team, really, their goal is, the goals of the teams would be, if you're the batting team, you just have to survive the day. The day's play, excuse me. If you're the bowling team, you want to achieve taking the 10 wickets. So if you're the bowling team and you don't take the 10 wickets, say you only get six batsmen out, for example, then the match will end in a draw. So, that is how a draw can happen in Test cricket. I apparently didn't explain that the last episode. I should have. If I was half a professional, I would have gone back and listened. But anyway, so that's that. Now, in the opening song, this particular listener has been particularly disgruntled about this particular thing for some time. And that is in the opening jingle. Apparently, at the end of the jingle, there is some sort of beep, or there is some sort of problem with the music. There's a beep apparently, or something like blip at the end. I have never noticed that whatsoever. Now, is that because I have listened to it so much, I'm completely oblivious to it? Quite possibly, but allegedly there is some sort of bleep, beep or something at the end of the jingle. I have never noticed this. It's completely foreign to me. So that is another issue. And apparently I have neglected to fix it. However, I refuse to acknowledge it is even a problem. So there's that. Let's move on to the next item. Now, yes, last episode talked of the fancy of, so there was I think there was going to be a lotto draw or something that Friday or the Saturday of the last episode, and it was going to be worth about $5 million. Now, here's a couple of interesting things. Now, the tax on that, I didn't take this into consideration, of course. The tax on that, according to the calculator on the ATO's website, that's the Australian Taxation Office, according to the calculator on the tax website, tax on $5 million would be $2.2 million. I think it was about that. So we'll just say half of that. So, you know, still $2.5 million is a lot of money. Now, here's an interesting thing. The disgruntled listener said that they would maybe gift things. They would probably gift like maybe somebody $500, and they've off the cuff said they would probably give me a PS5. So I'm very glad that I'm worth a PS5 to the disgruntled listener, like $500 or whatever. So I was like, okay, whatever. Now, also, another thing in regards to the cricket, I will explain what the follow-on and declaring an innings is. So if you're the batting team, you can declare your batting innings. So let's just say you get 500 runs and the bowling team hasn't dismissed all of your batsmen. You can say, right, we've had enough of batting. We're going to declare our innings. So you can, stop batting if you so desire. Now, and that I'll use that example as well in regards to the follow-on. Now, the follow-on is, let's just say, so Team A, they've made 500 runs, okay, like, you know, they've declared their innings or whatever. Now, the second batting team, or Team B, they have to get, you know, as close as they can, of course, to the 500. Now, if they don't get within, I think it's 200 runs. So let's just say, for example, they make 250 all out. So they're still 250 runs behind in this context. Now, the bowling team, which was, the team that set to 500, the bowling team in this context can say, okay, we can make the batting team bat again. So if they make the batting team bat again, you know, the batting team, of course, still have to make up 250 runs to even make the first team have to bat a second time. So, but in this context, you are enforcing what is called the follow-on. So, you know, you say if you bat first, you get a huge total, and the second team get nowhere near it. You can make them bat again. So as a result, if say, you know, you get 500 runs, and let's just say, you know, the second team get 250, and you say, right, we're going to make you bat again, and they get 249 runs. That means their total runs and both of their bats is 499. So the team that set the initial 500 run innings has, in this context, has won the game by an innings and 1 run. So they haven't had to bat a second time, so it's an innings and a 1 run, because the other team, of course, is still a run behind their initial total. Anyway, I've been talking about, that's the feedback, everybody. Love a bit of feedback. But if you're a disgruntled listener, such as this person, if you're a disgruntled listener, send me some feedback. Anyway, let's get into the next topic. Well, everybody, now, what is something unusual you have seen somebody dunk into their coffee? Now, a couple of weeks ago, I think it actually might have been before Christmas. It wasn't this year, I don't think, if I'm honest. But anyway, I was out for a bike ride, and afterwards, after we went for our ride with the group, we stopped, we had a coffee after. Now, somebody went and they got themselves a croissant as well to have with their beverage. Not unusual. However, what they did next, I've never seen, and I'd never heard of anybody doing at all. And that is they dunked their croissant into their coffee. They were like, I'm about to do something. Is this controversial? I'm about to do something controversial. And they dunked it. And, interesting. Not something I'd ever seen before, ever heard of. And nor have I ever thought of doing. The only thing I have ever dunked in a beverage is a biscuit, not any sort of baked good. Anyway, so that was interesting. And I asked one of my friends, a friend of mine works at one of the local cafes, bakery places in town. And I actually asked one of their co-workers who I've met and who has come to a few parties, etc., a few gatherings we've had, said co-worker's been there. So I asked this co-worker, I said, mate, have you ever heard of or seen anybody dunk a croissant into their beverage? And if so, have you done it? They had not done it, but I believe they said that they had seen it done. So I thought, okay, it's not like a random thing, because this person is who I witnessed dunk is from England. So I was like, is this maybe an English thing? But no, it is something that people do. So if you've ever dunked a croissant into a coffee, and apparently you need to have a good croissant as well. You can't have a bad one. You've got to be a good croissant. So if you've ever dunked your croissant, dunked a croissant into a coffee or any sort of warm beverage, let me know. And here's a tease for hopefully the next episode, if I remember. I may have a little bit of a follow-up to this. Yes. Anyway, let's get into the last. This is odd. I don't know what I'm talking about for, but we'll get into the last thing and we'll wrap the show up. So a couple of weeks ago, I was listening to a pod. You'll be shocked to know I listen to other podcasts. Actually, I don't even listen to this podcast. I'm not even subscribed to my own podcast, okay? But I listen to other podcasts, and I was listening to a football, being soccer, podcast, and on there, out of the blue, it was obviously good enough for me to take a note of it, but like out of the blue, the host said, one evening, after a cheeky bottle of wine, I think was the term they used, them and their wife signed up to a swingers site. And apparently they've been getting messages. Anyway, he's like, oh, you signed up to a swingers site. I was like, what? Completely was not expecting it at all. But it did get me thinking, sort of. Have you ever, not necessarily like with your spouse, but have you ever signed up to some sort of different, I'll say that, a different sort of unusual like website that, promotes unusual activities, etc. Just to sort of see what happens, right? Say you just sign up to, you're quite possibly completely like satisfied, happy, etc. with your life, but you're like, hey, I might just sign up to a dating site, for example, to see if I get any traction. I think it's like a similar sort of thing, right? Yeah. So, yeah. Hey, how many bank accounts have you signed up for? I have too many. That's for sure. I've got, I don't know, too many bank accounts, right? So, I mean, not that this is the same sort of thing, but you're just signing up for something just to see if, like, you want to check, you're curious. So you're like, I'll just sign up to something or get involved in something, just like briefly to see what it's about because you're curious. Similar sort of thing, I guess. Anyway, that was nothing, but yeah, most definitely, I'll say most definitely not something I was expecting to hear be talked about or even touched on whilst listening to a football podcast. Anyway, everybody, let's wrap it up. Well, everybody, look, that is it for this episode of the podcast. If you have any feedback, if you're a disgruntled listener and you have any feedback, please send me an email, luke.who'stalkingpod@gmail.com. You can tweet me at L_who'stalking as well. Or you can join the Luke Who's, what's it called? Luke Who's, whatever, Discord. Luke Who's Discord. There you go. So I'm here going, it's Luke Who's, what is it? But it's Luke Who's Discord. It's actually what it's called. Yeah. Anyway, everybody, thanks for listening. And I'll catch you I'll catch you in the next episode. Hey, maybe you've subscribed to a podcast just to see what it's like, and then you're like, oh, that's not for me. So I'm subscribed, right? Maybe you've done that. You know, not a swingers site though. Anyway, everybody, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you later. Bye.